Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. It keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Music Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Rory O'Toole. Thank you for tuning into the show. Thank you for coming back if you're a long-time listener. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. You're going to enjoy it, I think. If not, maybe you can enjoy my bad opinions in your view. In my view, they're okay opinions. I'm not saying I'm the best opinion maker, but I'm a decent opinion guy. Some would say. Who knows? Anyways, today we're going to be covering the VMAs. Those just went down. Kind of going over the history of it, sort of a short review. Of course, give you a rundown of who won what moon people went to what celeb people. They're not calling it the Moon Man anymore. It's the Moon People. Also, we will be getting into the best and worst of the week. One of my favorite segments we have on the show. Then we're going to review Disclosure's new album along with Maluma's new album. Those both dropped the past week. And then, before I let you guys go, we're going to be doing a one-year retrospective, sort of an album that came out around this time. 1 year ago, 12 months later, how we feeling? And we're going to be going over Jidenna's 85 to Africa and Snoh Aalegra's Ugh! Those feels again. So, hope you guys stick around for all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's get into it. The VMAs just happened, and they were on MTV. MTV still is putting the music in their MTV acronym, even though mostly they're just showing Catfish at this point, some other reality shows, ridiculousness reruns. I don't know what else is really going on that channel. I don't know if they still have MTV2. Does anyone know? Has anyone checked in on MTV recently? I'm not sure. Anyways, just to give you guys a short little history of the VMAs and why it's important and why it's this yearly event. Obviously, it stands for the Video Music Awards, commonly abbreviated as the VMAs, as I've been known to say. And it's presented by MTV to honor the best in the music video medium. Now, this was originally conceived as an alternative to the Grammy Awards, especially in the video category, and has often been called the Super Bowl for youth. At least it was when youth still watched MTV. Now that tagline doesn't work much in the internet age, but it was true at one point, especially in the 80s and 90s. And it still has the ability to draw millions of young people, from teens to 20-somethings each year. The first VMA ceremony was held in 1984 at New York City's Radio City Music Hall. And the ceremonies are usually held in NYC or LA, no surprise there. Now, the stature of the ceremony has definitely declined in recent years. Just sort of a lack of interest. You can see that in the viewership numbers. I think in 2019 it was an all-time low, and that was the third straight year of a drop-off for the ratings of the show. You also kind of have a lack of musical diversity and a lack of credibility. And with the access to music online and on other platforms, it's like, do you even need MTV at this point? Not really, let's be honest. But still has a place in the cultural pantheon, I'd argue. It's still a way to get the best of music in the same room, which is increasingly more rare these days, especially in our pandemic world. Obviously, Madonna dominated the early VMA era. She had some scandalous performances and won a ton of awards because Madonna was, of course, the queen of the 80s and early 90s. Then you had Britney Spears in the 2000s. Remember that thing where she, I think she actually made out with Madonna, and then she had like the thing with the snake, and VMA is kind of known for, scandalous moments. Think of Kanye getting on stage and interrupting Taylor Swift. That sort of vibe is what fits the show. It's very pop dominated as far as musical genres go. It's very, very geared towards pop music. And just to give you a sense of who's won the most awards here, who is the GOAT of the VMAs, that would be Beyonce. 25 awards. 25 VMA awards. Madonna has 20. Lady Gaga has 18. We will be getting into Lady Gaga because she had a big, big night. But as far as the show went, it was pretty bizarre. It was originally supposed to take place at Brooklyn's Barclays Center, but the show was, of course, forced to move to remote segments, because we are in this pandemic world. So while a few performances were filmed on location in New York City, many were basically shot in front of a green screen in LA, or in the case of BTS, Seoul in South Korea, and just some other remote segments. I think Megan Thee Stallion and a few others accepted their awards literally like from their bedroom, like they're just on webcam. They're on Zoom like the rest of us. And the show sort of tried to be a tribute to New York City, but I don't know if it totally succeeded. It just kind of reminded us of how weird things are in New York and across the world right now. And like I said, none of the performances were actually filmed there, and most of them, including the acceptance speeches, were actually filmed beforehand. I guess some of them were live, but a lot of them were pre-taped. And host Keke Palmer and the presenters kind of were in this digitally rendered rooftop, cheered on by CGI revelers. It was, aesthetically speaking, it was all very Blade Runner, as Pitchfork said. That was a pretty good summation of the whole vibe. And into the winners, just to give you guys a quick rundown of who took home their Moon people. Video of the Year went to The Weeknd for Blinding Lights. Artist of the Year went to Lady Gaga. Song of the Year and Best Collaboration went to Rain on Me, Lady Gaga, and Ariana Grande. Best New Artist was Doja Cat. Best Pop Song was On by BTS. Best Hip Hop Song, Savage, Megan Thee Stallion featuring Beyonce. Best Rock Song was Orphans by Coldplay. Best Latin was Que Peña, Maluma featuring J Balvin. And Best Group was BTS. So, just the main takeaways here. Really big night for Lady Gaga, of course. She took home the Tricon Award, which is not really defined, but is essentially a Lifetime Achievement Award. It used to be called the Michael Jackson Vanguard Award or something like that, and they, of course, changed that with all the controversies surrounding Michael Jackson that's come up in recent years. She put on a really, really great performance. Not just singing. Like, every award she got, she had a new outfit on. Even during her performances, she was changing outfits. It was all very, very Gaga. And yeah, she won Artist of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Collaboration, and Best Cinematography. Gave a bunch of speeches. really magnificent masks she was wearing. She's very, reminding us to wear our masks out there. And she wore it in Lady Gaga fashion. And I just love that she had a new outfit change for each appearance. That's just peak pop star right there. In the best, I mean that in the highest compliment. If you're going to be a pop star, do it all the way. Take it all the way. And she certainly did. And otherwise, this show felt a little out of step with just music in general at the moment. And obviously how serious things feel right now. We've got an election coming up. We have a lot of socio-political unrest at the moment. In 2020, of course, has a pandemic as well. And lots of bad news accompanying it. So just feels weird to have award shows at this point. Feels weird to celebrate pop music at a point like this. But we go on nonetheless. It was great to see K-pop and reggaeton artists get some shine. That's really speaking to their increasing relevancy in the mainstream at the moment. Both K-pop and reggaeton breaking into America. Not only occasionally, but just staying. They are establishing themselves on the charts. And I think they're here to stay. And I think that's great. That's going to diversify our music choices, our music sounds, get some influences going across the board. I think that's a good thing for mainstream music, for pop music in general. It's been a little, stagnant beforehand. Rock music and country music were basically ignored. I mean, that's sort of par for the course as far as country goes, but rock originally was one of the mainstays of the VMAs, and this sort of speaks to rock's increasingly irrelevancy on a mainstream stage in a mainstream sense. I mean, if you're giving awards to Coldplay for best rock song, I mean, that tells you all you need to know. Rock music, it is actually in a good place, I would say, but as far as its presence on the mainstream, its cultural relevancy, it's obviously hit its high water mark and has now receded out to sea, and I don't think it's ever coming back. It is very much a child of the mid-20th century. And, rock had its moment. Now it's basically hip-hop and our version of pop right now, and those will go eventually. So, these things have their life cycles. But, yeah, it's just kind of surreal to see rock music ignored at the VMAs, which that was one of the mainstays of it. Think of groups like Poison and Van Halen and Guns N' Roses and Nirvana and Pearl Jam just kind of defining the early VMA era. Now that's all gone. And like I said, Lady Gaga, she made a point to mask up every single time she was on camera. And she had a quote, "Wear a mask. It's a sign of respect." That's the kind of messaging we need right now. And that kind of speaks to the acknowledgement of what's going on in the outside world. The Weeknd also closed both of his acceptance speeches for Best R&B and Video of the Year by repeating the phrase, "Justice for Jacob Blake, justice for Breonna Taylor." The baby performed on top of a police car as fires burned around him. Weird, he rapped Rockstar, which is sort of this generic party rap song while trying to make a political statement. So, DaBaby, I don't know if he's the messenger we want here, let's be honest. The Weeknd had a really cool performance on the New York skyline. Huge production value on that. He's basically being filmed by helicopter as he's performing Blinding Lights. And there's like fireworks going off on the Hudson River. And apparently neighbors complained. I could see why. It was a huge, huge production, but just awesome. I can't imagine having to follow that up if I was an artist. He absolutely killed it. Another good performance was Chloe and Haley's. They did not screw around. Performed on Godly Hour. It's one of the night's tightest sets. I love the metallic retro look they had going during that too. Miley Cyrus climbed a wrecking ball in a bit of self-referential performance art that didn't work that well, I have to say. Miley Cyrus, maybe stay at home for that one. Jack Harlow also gave us a nice low-energy performance. He really looks over rapping his hit song, What's Poppin'. The dude looks just tired and annoyed with the song. I can see why if I had to perform it as much as he. But it's like, dude, can we cut this from the show if the guy clearly doesn't care? But overall, the VMAs are increasingly irrelevant. MTV is increasingly not even a music network. These award shows are increasingly irrelevant as well. It's all sort of a symbol of a bygone era and bygone sensibilities, but they're still left over. We're sort of transitioning away from them. They're trying to pivot to the modern day, the internet world that is going to be the future, but they are sort of these creatures like rock music of the 20th century, and I just don't see them really surviving well into the 21st century. The whole concept of award shows and the televised music network are all very antiquated and frankly unnecessary. But in a year like 2020, we'll take what we can get, any sense of normalcy. We even had the Black Eyed Peas end the show just to really pretend that things were normal. You know, sometimes you need an illusion. After the break, we will be getting into the best and worst of the week. Please stick around for that.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
It's the best, it's the worst, it's the week. It's that segment again. Now, last time I started with the worst of the week. I like my bad news first, personally. Just give me the bad, and then I'll deal with the good. I just want to know the bad from the get-go. But this week we're going to start with the best. We're going to start with the good. Start with the decent. So, best of the week. What else would we start with but Blackpink and Selena Gomez, Ice Cream. Now, I'm not a Selena Gomez head. I'm not part of the Selena Gomez hive. I don't know actually what her fan base is called. And I'm certainly not a K-pop stan. But I have to say, this song, Ice Cream, is just, it's a great pop song. It's just sugary. It's catchy. You know, I wouldn't say it's super danceable, but you can dance to it. It's bouncy, very chipper, and it's just playful, little taunting little song. It's great. It's just about being the object of other people's hunger. Now, this is Blackpink's second single off their forthcoming debut full-length album, which is out October 2nd. Fun fact, Ariana Grande co-wrote this track. So, more props to Ariana Grande on her way to dominating pop music for the foreseeable future. And yeah, it's just a very fun song. I think it's going to dominate the charts. And it signals just how big and major K-pop is becoming on the mainstream stage. These groups like Blackpink are really making a move for the American audience, and it seems to be paying off at the moment. I think with the generational shifts and just different styles coming into vogue, I could see K-pop being a real force in the next decade or so, and Blackpink's going to be on the forefront of that. Check out Ice Cream. Like I said, it's more big things for K-pop world domination. Elsewhere in Best of the Week, We had the Dragon Ball Do-Rag remix with Smino and Guadap 4000. Just a fun song, just like the original by the multi-instrumentalist bass master Thundercat, the jazzy hip-hop meme lord himself, Thundercat. He released his album, I believe it was called Is This It Now? Something along those lines. I'm actually struggling to remember the album title of his last project, but it was great. Thundercat, he's been a staple in the game for a while. He's one of my favorite artists. And yeah, this remix, super fun, just like Ice Cream. Doesn't take itself too seriously on the original song, and same here on the remix. Now, the music video for Dragon Ball Do-Rag, which was directed by comedian and BFF Zach Fox, was amazing and hilarious and just super off the wall, and even had cameos of Haim, and it just totally fit the song, which is essentially about getting cat hair on your Dragon Ball Do-Rag and crooning to a crush. It's really stupid. It's really like just a pithy little dumb little song that is just infectious and super enjoyable. And I love this little remix because it brings the song back into the forefront, and you get Smino and Guadap having nice fun little verses. Smino doing his half rap, half crooning sort of shtick that I love him for. Talking about love, and then being introduced and subsequently apologetic to his girl's mama. And then Guadap is basically rapping about same thing, and also his Grammy outfit where he had a do-rag so long that it dragged on the floor, which really feels like that works on this song, which is about a do-rag. Like Guadap said, I feel fire, I feel mythical, I'm fly, I'm a do-rag dragon. That's why I showed up to the Grammys with my do-rag dragon. Shout out Guadap 4000, Oakland Zone. Elsewhere in Best of the Week, we have Now featuring Leanne LaHavis called Woman. Now said this is a song Leanne and I are so happy to put out into the world. I truly believe this is the start of a new dawn where being a woman, especially a woman of color, can and should be celebrated. This is our time. We all deserve to be celebrated. Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a floating groove, easy listening, definitely a ladies' anthem, enjoyable as hell. Just great little song. Now, worst of the week. I got two things to talk about when it comes to worst of the week. We have YG's Equinox. Now, YG has announced a release date for his forthcoming 5th album, My Life 400. According to a press release, he plans to unleash the project sometime in October. Now, in the lead up to the album, he shared this song, and it's raunchy twerk video featuring Day Salon, who I think is on his record label, if I'm not mistaken. And I gotta be honest, this thing is just filled with generic verses, a formulaic, boring beat. Just not really bringing anything. Day Salon's verse is just super copy-paste, Control-C, Control-V, raunchy female artist with a rapper making a twerk song. It's super lazy and uncreative, and it's pretty disappointing coming from YG, who was pretty exciting early on in his career. My Crazy Life was a great project, I thought, and unfortunately it just seems like he's sort of atrophied as an artist. If this is what's being released ahead of the album, that's not a good sign. I think he needs to go back to his gangster rap roots or his G-Funk DJ Mustard infused sound, because that's when he was at his best. Yes, he had stupid songs like Toot It and Boot It way back in the day, but I like YG when he's being deadly serious and a little bit vulnerable. This is just like, yo, you're like any other rapper. I understand that twerk songs make a lot of money and you're just trying to get a song that's going to be played in the club, but it ain't like clubs are open right now. And this song is just going to go and be gone so quickly. It's not really adding anything. It's super forgettable, super generic, super formulaic, boring. Just YG. I'll see what your album's like, but this is not a good sign. Also, in Worst of the Week, I hate to say it, but Katy Perry's new album, Smile. Not great. I don't want to say it's horrible, but it was pretty bad. It's just feels very shined with this false sense of happiness and contentment. Feels very forced and inorganic. Now, of course, it's an attempted comeback after the relative failure of her 2017 album Witness, which basically failed because she was trying too hard and trying to get serious and political or quote-unquote purposeful. Critics didn't love it, and more importantly, a lot of her fans didn't love it either. So this is her response, and it's called Smile, which came out August 28th. Now, Perry acknowledged the criticisms of Witness, she said in an interview to NPR, and this is a long quote, but I'll give it to you here. I had been in an upward roller coaster. You're just going all the way up, but eventually this thing has to come down, Perry said. I had 10 years of just an insane rocket fuel ride from 2008 to 2017. I put out a record. It was a different record. It wasn't like the past three. This one was a bit more sonically experimental. It's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to break out of the loop of the idea of what people thought I could do musically. If you look at the long-term graph of any artist, they've always had a moment where they've revolved or rejected or pivoted, and that was my time. So I did it, but I wasn't really getting quote-unquote high off of my own supply anymore. It's like I had gotten too used to the view from the top of the mountain, and the universe decided it was time to serve me a little humble pie, which I hated at the time, but looking back, obviously it was so necessary for me to grow and become grounded and more expansive as a human being, and not just be on this forever loop of trying to ring the bell of mockingly being the best pop star ever. But not knowing how to literally boil water, having no other dimension in life, and just being so single-minded, it started to wear and tear on my mental health. So, basically Perry's saying there, I was on this insane pop star ride of success, and with Witness, I took a risk, and it didn't pay off. And yes, it was a failure, but ultimately it was a success because it showed me I needed to grow as a human being and focus on my personal life and my mental health and kind of figure out where I want to move going forward. And I think that's a great sentiment. It reads a little like Hollywood self-centered celeb, obviously like putting themselves at the center of literally the universe's plan. We're gonna, what the universe needs? We're gonna serve Katy Perry humble pie. That's important right now. But not to be too harsh. It's just like, it's like really take a break on that. But at least she acknowledged Witness was, not the greatest project she ever put out. She stands by, obviously, her effort on it, but it just didn't pan out, and that happens as an artist, so she's very positive about Smile here, and she said it's meant to be a picture of, all caps, resilience and gratitude. That's what she wrote in her liner notes, and that sense of someone kind of yelling at you definitely comes through on the songs. You have lyrics like, yeah, I'm thankful, scratch that baby, I'm grateful. She croons in the title song, Smile. On another song, she yells, "I am resilient," 6 times in about 2 minutes. Now, I don't want to crap on anyone trying to be positive or be happy where they are in life and sort of celebrate what they have instead of what they don't have, but this doesn't make for the most compelling record, and it feels like an attempt at cultivating a theme for a record that really is just another attempt at pop chart success. Like, let's just call it what it is. Let's not give it this added layer of meaning, because I don't even think Kate, maybe she is buying what she's selling, but to the listener, it's clear like this is as packaged as any other pop record. And there's a reason this title track was used in a Target back-to-school commercial. The sound is the sort of music that makes pleasing for background noise, but once you actually sit with it, you realize how vapid and dull it is. You also have a pandemic anthem here, "Not the End of the World," which reminds us you can take a frown and turn it upside down. That's a real lyric. Whenever you're sad about 2020, just think you can take a frown and turn it upside down. Oh, I can't believe that's real. Yeah, it just feels very forced and sort of an attempt at a pep talk that no one asked for. It didn't feel organic or even different. At least Witness was like an attempt at being different. This seems like sort of returning to Roar era, Dark Horse era Katy Perry, but failing at capturing that. And there's certainly songs here which will do numbers, but I don't think any of these songs are going to be remembered. And ultimately, I don't even think Katy Perry is going to look back at this project with that much significance or warmth or feeling that it mattered that much. This feels like a transition album, a bridge between the Katy Perry who dominated the charts and the Katy Perry who in the future is probably going to be more on the margins of pop music when it comes to, oh yeah, she used to be really big and she's maybe releases a fun song every 2 or 3 years, but isn't really relevant on the pop stage in the way that she was before, and that's fine. Smile, though, I don't think it's worth a listen, but if you are a Katy Perry fan, why not? We're in a pandemic. We have nothing else to do. After the break, we will be getting into Disclosure's album and Maluma's album. Please stick around for that, and remember, at the end of the show, we're doing 1-year retrospectives.
Jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the show. We just got over the best and worst of the week. Now we're going to get into a little review section here. Talking about Disclosure's new album, Energy, and Maluma's new album, Papi Wancho. I believe I pronounced that correctly. If I did not, just know that I failed Spanish my freshman year of high school. So any mispronunciations can be attributed to the fact that I'm very dumb when it comes to language. Now, both these were released since the last episode. Now, we're going to start with Disclosure. Now, this is the Lawrence Brothers' third studio album. Released a few singles in the lead up to its release, including My High, which I mentioned a few episodes ago. The album is full of the dynamism that will make you miss clubbing in this pandemic environment we all live in, and maybe even large crowds of sweaty human beings and inaudible conversations, pulsating heart rates, all the good stuff of clubbing and going out. All the stuff that maybe annoyed you before, but now you somehow miss just because of how little social contact we're all having. This album is going to give you your fix. It is going to fill that hole in yourself at least for 40 to 60 minutes. Now, let's get into the highlights first. We have Watch Your Step featuring Khalees. Khalees, obviously, of My Milkshakes Bring All the Boys to the Yard fame. This song is an absolute banger. Great dance song. Definitely sets the tone for the sort of clubby, dancey sort of sound that you want from a Disclosure record. And what we all wanted in the lead up to this. Just great song. Also, Lavender featuring Chanel Tress. As Pitchfork wrote, Chanel Tress brings his purring monotone to Lavender, a hip house meets filter disco romp that touches on the glitz of Daft Punk and the Neptunes. That's what Pitchfork wrote about that song. I mean, if that's not going to attract you to listen, I don't know what is. Great interplay between the instrumentation and the vocals on that one. My High featuring Amine and Slow Tie, like I said a few episodes ago, it's that frat party rage anthem. Tables will be broken, beer pong will be played, party and debauchery will be had to that song. Just absolute crazy, like feels like you're on the ride of a lifetime when you listen to that one. And it's just, you know, the visceral sound goes really nicely with the sure-handness of Amine, which in turn contrasts greatly with Slow Tie's madness and just, frankly, crazy energy. Really, really fun song there. Then the best song, I think, is Duha, Mali Mali by Fatoumata Diawara. She is an actress, singer, songwriter, and multiple Grammy Award nominee from Mali, who's currently living in France. Like I said, just a great song. If I had to describe it in one word, it'd be bliss. It's this dance mantra that powers through a language barrier to deliver these irresistible rhythms and hypnotic vocals. There's something really affirming about dancing or listening to music in a language you can't understand. It almost helps you focus on the music even more so. And that is leveraged to the greatest degree on this song. Also, dope music video. Transports viewers to 3 different continents on that one. Very positive song. Very dancey song. Just one that should be used on compilation videos of soccer players doing cool things. I expect this song to be used because it's got that high tempo, up tempo sound that, for whatever reason, whoever makes these soccer highlight videos, they all love that. And if you don't like soccer, it's one that you could definitely play in your room, dance to, have a ball to. Just, I love this song. Definitely one that I'm going to be revisiting in the future. Also, Birthday. It's a great breakup jam with some fun role play between Sid and Kehlani on that one. You know, sort of about reaching out to an ex and seeing if you can be friends after everything. Put your history behind you, perhaps. Also, Reverie. It's a common feature. Very buttery verse he drops on that with some nice rippling instrumentation. But I have to say, it's probably not the best ender, not the best closer for an album, but, you know, in a vacuum, it's a good song. And I have to say, the second interlude on this sounded like Jay Dilla. It was very eerie. I think it may even been flipped from the Donuts collection. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously they're heavily influenced by Jay Dilla. And that might be like a direct reference to that. I'm not sure. As far as lowlights, Who Knew? Featured Mick Jenkins. Pretty boring, I have to say. Mick Jenkins, he's kind of take it or leave it. Energy, it's the title track. I don't really understand why this was on it. It was sort of this lame motivational speech. It has audio from the famous motivational speaker Eric Thomas. Sort of messy instrumentation as well. If you're not familiar with Eric Thomas, he's the guy who did the How Bad Do You Want It motivation video on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, that's probably a good thing. If you need to get motivated, go check it out, I guess. I don't know. Not really my type of thing. So just to summarize it, it's this disco pop, fun UK garage sort of record. Definitely recommend to listen. I have to say the front end was a lot better than the back end of the song. There's 11 songs, and maybe 6 or 7 of them could be hits. It's definitely a summer project. 11 songs, pretty short. Would have liked some more there, but you could take what you can get with Disclosure. I think this is a good return to their first album sound. They've been doing a lot of pop, dipping their toes in the pop world, working with people like Sam Smith, and that's been sort of hit or miss, kind of straying from what made them so popular and so fun originally. And, you know, their collaborations with people like Khaled, songs like Talk, doing very well. Love that song. So we'll see where they go in the future. I think this is a good project. Check it out. It's kind of got something for everyone, I'd say. As far as if you want something upbeat, up-tempo, something to dance to, or at least kind of do a little groove to. This is definitely for you. Now, Maluma's Papi Wancho, like I mentioned earlier, he did win a VMA for Best Latin Song with his fellow Colombian J Balvin. So to follow that up, he did perform actually at the VMAs. I believed was it Hawaii was the name of the song he performed? I'll have to check that out. But he was on stage at the VMAs performing, promoting his new album. Also some nice product placement. Had a lot of Toyota Camrys in the crowd there. That was not a mistake, obviously. It's a good sponsorship deal right there. Anyways, after his arena rock album 1111, Maluma goes back to his reggaeton roots on this one. It's definitely meant to be played loud. Preferably do a little two-step while you're listening to it. Now, it's probably too long at 22 songs, but in a genre where literally every song has the same beat, I wouldn't say it's a slog either. It just kind of morphs together into this one, like, Calvin Klein after party, essentially, with Maluma narrating this sort of vapid, materialistic, but exhilarating and sort of irresistible when it comes to dancing to sort of record. It's kind of hollow. I don't get the sense that Maluma is the deepest of souls, but he's fun for a weekend. He's fun for a Friday night. I don't know what's going on behind those sunglasses. He might be dead behind the eyes, but for a one night thing, if you want to have a night on the town, if you want to have a Miami Vice sort of vibes, Maluma's your man. Now, the misogyny that takes up much of this album, unfortunately, he's been getting a lot of criticism for it. He's been called out before. He's had some scandals in Colombia and just the Latin music world in general with that aspect of him. Now, he says he's just playing a character. It's an alter ego. Now, of course, this is the same excuse that The Weeknd has used to explain away his scumbaggery and tons of other male pop stars who both desire and despise women. But you get the sense that this may be Maluma's true self, more or less. I don't want to pin the guy down as a misogynist, but clearly the guy, has maybe a bit of a retrograde view when it comes to the male-female dynamics. Dude says some problematic stuff every now and then and just kind of gives off a vibe of, frankly, a pretty boy who probably is going to cheat on you. Probably not one to trust. But, maybe give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's just playing a character. Maybe The Weeknd is just playing a character, but it's sort of hard to know when the persona wears away and the real person comes out. And I think even the artists get confused with who they really are and what they really represent and who they are deep down, because when you're playing this character all the time, you almost become the character. And Maluma may be falling into that trap. In any event, I'd say the album's decent. It's not great. Certainly not bad, though. There's some hits here. There's some great dance tunes. It's easy listening. Reggaeton, it's all the same beat, more or less, so you can sort of feel like you're listening to just a 60-minute song, which I actually love about the genre. Some people critique it for that, but look, what you see is what you get with reggaeton, and that typical reggaeton beat sort of provides the foundation for creativity around the edges and allows, the vocal performers to stand out. Now, Maluma's not blowing you away with his voice or his content, but the dude, he has a style, he has a vision, and I'd say that comes through on the album, so I'll give him credit for that. And, of course, reggaeton started in Puerto Rico. Maluma gives some credence to his Puerto Rican forebears who really started the genre, so that's cool to see. I would have liked to see some female appearances on this album. It feels very dude-heavy, which is not helping his case when he defends himself as not a misogynist. It's like, all right. I think we could have used some female energy on this one. But that being said, machismo or not, the guy, he delivered a record here. He delivered the dance hits. He delivered the club hits. He delivered Maluma's Maluminous, his whole vibe, the handsomeness, the suaveness, the self-assuredness. All that comes through. If you like Maluma, you're going to like it. If you don't care for Maluma, this is going to be more reason for you to not care for him. For me, I'm somewhere in the middle. 1111 was definitely more of a crossover attempt. This is more of him going back to his roots. I think we might see him pivot back to the arena space again. Who knows, though? As far as songs to check out, I would check out Parse, ADMV, and Bella K. There's about 22 songs on this thing, though, so, those are only 3 of a ton of songs. Check it out. After the break, we will be getting into our 1-year retrospectives.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the show. We are doing our 1-year retrospectives on Jidenna's 85 to Africa and Snoh Aalegra's Ugh, Those Feels Again. Now, I'm a big fan of both these artists. I think they've released hits, they've released great albums, they've had nice feature appearances. They seem like really cool people. They seem like they care about their craft. So for all those reasons, I'm fans of both. And I was thinking about what we should talk about on the show. And I was like, you know what? These are albums that I'm still revisiting, even though they came out a year ago. So why not let's do a 1-year retrospective, talk about album a year later. Makes sense. You know, sometimes it takes a long time to digest an album, figure out how you feel about it, kind of reevaluate its importance. If you're not listening to it a year later, maybe it's irrelevant, maybe it's not important, maybe it never mattered. But if you're still rocking with an album a year later, you know, that says something. That's a very well-crafted, well-executed album, where you're not caught up in the moment. You're listening because it's good music, not because it's, you know, relevant at the time, which is what you want as an artist. You want people revisiting your stuff. You don't want it to come and go with the music cycle. You want it to have staying power, and both these projects certainly do. To start with, 85 to Africa. It's the second studio album by Nigerian-American recording artist Jidenna, released on August 23rd, 2019. The album follows the release of his debut album, The Chief, and the EP Boomerang. The album features guest appearances from the likes of Goldlink, Saint Beauty, Mr. Easy, Mereba, and Sean Kuti. Now, Jidenna came to fame with his radio smash hit, Classic Man. And that was a single that, you know, dominated the charts and dominated nightclubs way back in the days of 2015. And he had a nice dapper look, nice persona. He was a classic man, right? He was wearing 3-piece suits, coiffed hair. He was a smooth operator. And he was also part of Janelle Monáe's Wonderland Arts Society collective. But The Chief, his debut album, was actually deeper if you looked beyond the radio hits. He paid homage to his Nigerian roots and influences. And so it's no wonder that he chose the same on his second album. Like I said, he's paying tribute to that on the first album. Had African-influenced sounds and remixed some of songs like Bambi and a little bit more from The Chief with artists from Africa like Malik Berry and Burna Boy, who we've talked about before. He also dropped songs like Spy Candy with Tiwa Savage and had a track with Wale. Now, during the time between Boomerang and 85 to Africa, Jidenna was living in the ATL, living in Atlanta, and he actually got evicted from a home he was renting with his crew, with his dudes. And that was a big shock to him. Apparently his landlord was super shady and he suffered the consequences of that. But the good news was, essentially, it made him homeless. And in that homelessness led to this pursuit of where is home, where do I actually belong, which was expressed in 85 to Africa, which is essentially about coming home to Africa, to the motherland, to his father's birthplace, and to the birthplace of not only African Americans, but of humankind as a whole. Very positive, back to your roots sort of philosophy there. And he ended up traveling around several countries, totally embraced that Pan-Africanist social-political philosophy about uniting the African diaspora and all the cultures that it's birthed into one consciousness, one state, one unified people. And this is something we've talked about when I did my episode on Burna Boy and when we discussed the importance of Fela Kuti. The album is intended to be a bridge between America and the African continent, which is obvious in the title because the I-85 runs to the airport in Atlanta, which will take you on a direct flight to Africa. And it's an album that's filled with songs that are filled with influences from Africa, the Caribbean, American trap, African high life, Nigerian legend Fela Kuti, which I mentioned before and who I will continue to talk about throughout the podcast because he's so awesome, soul music, hip-hop, and all matters of the African American experience in between. Now, the album is split between Jidenna's rapping and contemporary hip-hop sounds, while the other half is decidedly African and Caribbean in its sound and vocal styles. So it's basically that America to Africa transition. It starts with American style and ends with African sensibilities. Kind of follows his journey from Atlanta to Africa. Now, the first song off the album, Worth the Wait, featuring Fela Kuti's son, Sean Kuti. It's got a raw, scratchy horn sample that forms the basis of it. Might be a sample from Kool and the Gang, actually. I'm not sure. And he has fun on this. He's asserting that he gave up a career on Wall Street to instead get his face on money, like he's Prince Hakeem from Coming to America. We have other references to Get Out and Issa Rae. And like I said, Sean Kuti, that's a very intentional choice to bring him on. He's the son of Fela, who is a massive influence on African music and on Jidenna as well. The title track is an aux chord banger. Baboosh features Gold Link. It's basically an ode to this swaggy slipper that is common in West Africa. And you even get some Me Too commentary thrown in there with lyrics like, you can tell a lot from appearance. You can really spot what you're fearing. I heard Morgan Freeman got a hearing. See, I never trusted that earring. Damn. Just sending shots at Morgan Freeman. I'm not sure why, but it was funny. I enjoyed it. Tribe absolutely knocks. That song is just about your crew, essentially your tribe. I mean, I cannot stop listening to that song. I still play it to this day. It is just an absolute banger. Put that in all caps. Susu is a grinding and a rum-infested club sort of vibe. Very horny. I respect it. Doing his thing. Zodi, featuring Afrobeat star Mr. Easy, is about charming and astrology-minded lady. Sufi Women, it's a fun romantic jam with some Spanish guitar thrown in there. Vaporiza might be the best song on the album. Have great lyrics like Vaporiza, I'm breathing easy when I'm with you. Goes the affectionate hook on that. Great horn section. Real just vibe. Just lovely, bouncy, Afrobeat centered song. Love that one. Jidenna does a great job on that. And then it closes with The Other Half. It's a beautiful, reflective track. Beautiful hook. And it's got this wrenching, messy relationship narrative at the center of it. It'd certainly be home on a Marvin Gaye album or any soul album. I'm not, saying that Jidenna is Marvin Gaye, but he's sort of operating that territory there. And yeah, it's just an underrated project. Strong vision, strong execution. Feels like a magnum opus, but I hope Jidenna is just getting started. I absolutely love this project. It's a journey of a listen. You basically follow the journey he took. It's really, really tight. Well thought out. Well executed. Please give it a listen. I think it's really underrated. Somehow didn't get the buzz and the appreciation it deserved. Snoh Aalegra, Ugh, Those Feels. Again, this was the sequel to her 2017 album Feels. The Persian-Swedish singer's melodramatic take on soul hits just right this time. This album is considered to be a sequel to Feels. It's similar in both mood and theme. The album peaked at number 3 on the R&B sales chart, number 6 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums chart, and number 73 on the Billboard Top 200. The single I Want You Around reached number 1 on the R&B charts. And as Pitchfork said, for LA-based singer Snoh Aalegra, feelings hit like tear gas, seeping into the skin and scrambling the senses. Whether in the throes of love or heartbreak, the romance she sings of is forever smoldering, a breath away from flaring into full-blown passion or asphyxiating into ash. Yeah. I mean, it's very melodramatic. It's very, ripping off the Band-Aid sort of moody, romantic lyrics that feel like the worst kind of breakups and the most passionate sort of love stories. She is a real author when it comes to her music. She puts her stamp on everything she does. And it's just, the music here is just lush. It's orchestral, but it feels authentic and grounded. Like if Celine Dion was interested in human emotions instead of a Vegas residency. Songs like I Want You Around demonstrate that deep yearning that's at the heart of this album. She actually describes her sound as cinematic soul, and you can really see that with her well-crafted imagery and her lyrics and that silky voice that is almost made for a trailer or a James Bond movie. The first half of this album deals with the excitement of new love and going out there into the dating scene, while the second half is about reflecting on a past love, the relationship she's getting over, and now that she's found love, she finds herself still kind of dwelling on this past relationship, even though it's not good for her. Songs like Situationship and I Want You Around, that's a 1-2 punch of romantic relief, while Find Someone Like You is this vulnerable confession of love that high points her happiness on the project. Love Like That is a hip-hop infused moody cut that honestly I could imagine Drake on. enjoy is this jazzy, bitter text that you'd send to your ex in song form. And Nothing to Me, which is the second to last song on the album, has great lyrics. Maybe the best lyric on the album, which goes, "He wants to hold me, I'm alone." Yeah. Talk about tear gas emotions right there. Just, wrenching stuff, but it hits, feels true. Snoh Aalegra, just like Jidenna, she had a vision. She knows what she wants. She's not following an industry formula. She's following her own musical curiosities, and it really pays off here. She is such great listening. Just like in a jazz club with modern hip-hop and R&B beats and instrumentation. Is just fantastic combo. She's worked so hard to get to this point, and she's finally getting some respect. She's blown up a little bit. Overall, fantastic lush album that has aged like fine wine in the years since its release. And that's it for the show. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the GSMC Podcast Network, tuning in to the Music Podcast. Please remember to subscribe, leave a review. That really helps us. And yeah, find us on MySpace, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever the internet lives. We have some sort of presence there. Take care, y'all. Till next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.